Joe Biden has, in a certain sense, made history and also kept a promise, a particular sort of promise that has become very in vogue for presidents to not actually keep once they become president. So what is this about? Well, on Saturday, he became the first US president to officially recognize the massacre of Armenians under the Ottoman Empire as a genocide. In a statement marking the 106th anniversary of the massacre's start, Biden wrote, quote, "Each year on this day, we remember the lives of all those who died in the Ottoman-era Armenian genocide and recommit ourselves to preventing such an atrocity from ever again occurring." He is, as I alluded to, the first American president in decades to announce that view while in office, after predecessors including Barack Obama and George W. Bush walked back promises for fear of angering a NATO ally. The Turkish president Erdogan has furiously opposed declarations recognizing the Armenian genocide, which could have major ramifications for US-Turkey relations. And in fact, as of this morning, Erdogan has threatened, Francesca, that in response, he will recognize the American genocide of indigenous Americans. No, Erdogan, don't acknowledge the truth. Like, yeah, we should all recognize that. We should talk more about that. But anyway, we've got more history here for you. Francesca, what do you think about Biden actually coming through?
Yeah, I mean, when I first heard the news, I think I was surprised, not because he had done it, but because no other American president had recognized a genocide that claimed the lives of millions of Armenians. And that just goes to show my own ignorance on the issue and the fact that the Armenian community, especially the Armenian American community, has been sort of speaking very loudly about this and with due reason, and feeling like ignored and feeling that this genocide was just all in their heads, right? So it's all imagined. And I think that is the power of state narratives and oppression, especially of ethnic minorities, right? I mean, there are obviously similar issues happening today in Turkey. And so, when it comes to the Kurdish community as well, which is, squarely been putting the United States on the spot because of the ways that the Kurds very much helped the United States when it came to like fighting ISIS, among many other ventures in Iraq and Afghanistan. No matter what you think of them, the Kurdish community was very much supportive of the United States, and the United States, in large part especially under Trump, kind of hung them out to dry. So I think it's good. Look, I think that anytime the United States puts daylight between itself and honestly, arguably an authoritarian regime, that is a win. So I'm glad that he did it.
Yeah, agreed. And I think, first of all, I don't think that Biden doesn't believe that America conducted a genocide here. But just in case, sure, I would say come out today and talk about it actually, and talk about, sort of the lingering harm and all of that. Do that, get out in front of, take Erdogan up on his threat. We should acknowledge reality in all things. That should be consistent across everything. Turkey's government had two potential worlds. One in which they acknowledged this horrendous thing that in the past the government had done. The other in which we know that it happened, whether they acknowledge it or not, except in addition, they seem really pathetic in their unwillingness to accept it. And it seems like they're trying to do a little bit more harm on top. Insult to the injury of the genocide, that not only did it happen, and it definitely did, but we're not even going to acknowledge it. Those are the two worlds. They chose the worst one. And it's weird because Erdogan didn't do it. He wasn't around. That's right. 106 years ago. It doesn't mean that you did it, but it's really personally pathetic for you to not be willing to acknowledge it. And I understand if they acknowledge it, then they might have to do something. Wouldn't that be horrendous to have to right historic wrongs that did definitely happen? But there's nothing more pathetic than a person being unwilling to acknowledge reality. We're seeing it all over in things as casually as the anti-vaxxers and QAnon and all that stuff. And then there's these historic ones. So when he says, the foreign ministry responds saying that it doesn't have a scholarly or legal basis. No, it does. It does. You don't like it, but there's no doubt that it happened, okay? That it was absolutely horrendous, that 1.5 million Americans died during it. That is very well established beyond any reasonable scientific doubt. You are trying to throw doubt on it, but that doubt is not scientific.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I mean, it really speaks to the lunacy that is state power sometimes, and including the United States. I mean, I think that absolutely Biden should come out and start talking about, the genocide of Native Americans, and we should be constantly talking about it. But the reason I say lunacy is because it speaks to the idea that if you acknowledge past harms, like so many, whether it's in Turkey or the United States, are reticent to do, that if you acknowledge that you did something wrong, if you acknowledge that there was genocide, your entire identity will crumble. And that's BS. That is plain BS. And the identity of a nation, the identity of a state is forever evolving. It is based on different on events that happen. The identity of this country post-COVID is different than the identity pre-COVID. I hope it's for the better, because oh my God, what a mirror this entire experience has been up to our faces. But this is the thing, and this is what conservatives, no matter where they live, no matter where they are constantly afraid that if they admit past wrongs, suddenly their identities dissolve. And that is not true unless your identity is so wrapped up in, let's be real, ethnic superiority and supremacy that then we've got a real problem. Then that's not a good look. So again, just like really understanding, like none of this makes us who we are. Like acknowledging the Armenian genocide does not make Turkey what it is. Sweeping it under the rug doesn't make it what it is. It's in the service of more democracy. It's in the service of like minority voices finally feeling seen and recognized.
Yeah, exactly. In particular there, yeah, and in our own case, I mean, we've been fighting this, like as we've alluded to, with mostly American conservatives, but not just American conservatives, not being willing to actually acknowledge the things that have done in our own history. I remember I've referenced this before. I'll do it again, but Al Franken, in one of his books, it was in one of the forwards, I think. It was an argument about people loving America. And conservatives love to say that they love America and that the left doesn't love America. And so we can have our own thoughts about whether America as a concept is something that you should be investing your emotions in. But anyway, many do. And he said, it's not that the left doesn't, well, I think he probably meant like centrist libs at that point, but he was pitching as left. Not that they don't love America, it's that there's different ways of loving. And the analogy he gave was lots of people love their mom, for instance, but there's different ways that you can do that. If your mom has serious issues, you might love her while acknowledging those issues and trying to help her. If she's a raging alcoholic or was abusive or something like that, you might try to help her. You might love her too, but you love her while acknowledging the full extent of who she is as a person. Or you can stick your fingers in your ears and say, no, none of that exists. Don't say that about my mommy. She doesn't have any problems. That's just happy juice she drinks. You could do that and you could love her in that way, but it's a dumb, childish kind of love. It's not better in any way. I think arguably it's worse. So anyway, you can do that with a country too. Look into it. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.